I was surprised when I read that statistic from the Centers for Disease Control that almost half of Americans with HIV are 50 or older, and they report that the numbers are growing. Why? Why are the numbers continuing to grow? Why do we see so many 50 plus with HIV?
I consider that really good news. That means that the population is actually aging. Early on, the population was dying off. So that means that the medical advancements that we have are working, and that people are living long and healthy lives. So you can live a long, healthy life and be HIV positive now.
Let's backtrack a moment, because HIV is not front page news every day. So tell me, what is HIV, and what's the relationship between HIV and AIDS?
So it's a virus that actually attacks your immune system, so you can't fight off infections. And AIDS is actually, so a lot of times people interchange those, but AIDS is actually when the viral load gets so high to a certain point where the body, it's an issue, and it's a permanent, they do it as a permanent diagnosis, although people with AIDS can also start getting their viral load down. So the viral load's so high that the body is in, it's very dangerous possibility of death type experience. So
what are the risk factors for AIDS? Who's at risk?
So people with sexually transmitted infections, needle exchange, blood transfusions, although in the United States the blood banks don't have such great they have such great screening that you're not going to ever have that. People are tested before they can give blood. So but it's bloodborne pathogen is what it's called. So it can be transmitted sexually and through blood, needle exchange, et cetera.
Now, it's symptoms-wise, the symptoms are rather benign, correct?
So when you first contract HIV, it'll be just like you have the flu. So that's what the symptoms are. I mean, eventually, if your body breaks down the immune system, it's much more difficult. But when you get HIV, you won't know that you have it. You just will have flu-like symptoms for the first 2 weeks.
Are older adults at any greater risk than a younger population?
Well, the highest risk population now are what we call young black MSMs. So young black men who have sex with men is the highest risk population. At 1 in 2 gay black men are at risk of contracting HIV. And so that's a real high number. So what's important is that we really talk to people who get tested. So it's important that folks get tested, and that if they find out that they're HIV positive, they get treated immediately. And again, you can live a very long and happy life, healthy life, just like anybody else if you're HIV positive, because of the medical advancements that have been made.
Now, if you are an older person living with HIV, since it does attack the immune system, does that make you more susceptible to some of the diseases of old age?
So I think, what we're finding with our older population is that they have the same problems that everybody at that age has. So if they're medically compliant, which means if they're taking the medication daily, then they're not going to have any more issues than anybody else around their immune system breaking down. So again, the viral load can be so low that it's not even detectable. And what's really exciting now is just last year, or 2 years ago, the CDC came out with a statement that if your viral load is undetectable, then it's untransmittable. You cannot give it to somebody else. So that's one of the things that's really exciting for us. We're now using treatment as prevention as well. So it's a wonderful breakthrough for the United States.
Well, speaking of treatment, what is the treatment?
So there are, we call them kind of cocktails. There's a combination of medications, and there's about 5 or 6 of those out there that are very, very effective. The thing that's important, though, is that people take that medication every day. Missing your medication, your body can build up an immunity against it, and then what we find out is that it won't work again, and then there are only a few more that they can choose from. So it's really important that people take their medication every day. They take it at the same time every day with the amount of calories that they need to have. And so that's what Friends for Life does. We help them stay medically compliant through a number of different ways.
We spoke earlier about your group of 70 plus gentlemen who meet for their potluck.
Yeah.
And and deal with their issues.
So it's great. I mean, I have one of the things that we do is we have a men's group of potluck group that meets one Wednesday a month, and so they come to Friends for Life that evening, and there are some of those folks there are in their 70s, and it's really great listening to them talk about their issues. It's just like if you were at a dinner or a potluck with men of that age, it's the same issues that everybody else would be talking about. They don't lead with their HIV. They're talking about their joints hurting, or they're slowing down a little bit. They couldn't stay out till midnight last night, but they want to go to Florida. The same thing everybody else talks about, and they're just a great group of guys. And when I just met a new gentleman the other night, and he was talking to me about his experience with Friends for Life early on. When we started helping people die with dignity, basically. We helped friends make sure that their friends were taken care of until they died. So now, luckily that's not the case anymore. But he said back in the day, he had 40 friends who died of HIV. So that's not true anymore. It doesn't have to be true anymore, but unfortunately people do still die from that, and it's not the older people, it's the younger people who are refusing to get tested. They don't want to know, head in the sand, misinformation and bad information and bad education around it. So our job is to really get good information out about how it's not something to be stigmatized anymore. You can be long and healthy, happy lives, and I've got a potluck group of people who can tell you that.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Friends for Life, your organization. Because what role do you play out in the community? What programs do you have to deal, and specifically with the 50+ population?
Sure. So we have, our programs will deal will work with everybody. So, some of the things that we do is we make sure that people are housed. So if you're not housed, you're not going to take your medication. That's going to be the last thing on your worries. So we make sure that people are housed. So we help with housing. They need to have food. Again, if they're not eating, they're not going to be taking their medication. Some of our folks deal with mental health issues, and so we make sure that they are mentally stable enough to be able to take their medication every day. And so we help them with mental health issues. Then also especially for some of our older people who've started taking the medication, and really harsh medication in the early days, the advancements are just amazing. But it used to be just tons of pills. Now it's one pill. That's a combination of drugs. So it used to be tons of pills, and they were really difficult on the body. And so there's bone breakdown, a lot of times dental issues that come with it. So we really help them with that, medical, getting insurance, things such as that. So and then we also try to provide a space where people can come and it can be enjoyable and have a good time. We've got computers, we've got classes for people, wellness classes for people on how to live with HIV, what you need to do.
Well, Diane, thank you for being on The Best Times talking about this issue.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
If you have more questions about HIV, contact Friends for Life or go to their website.